I'm Jim Marshall. I'm the president of the United States Institute of Peace. I'm pleased to welcome all of you here this morning. On a personal note, this is a particularly interesting day for me. My daughter, Mary, is a graduate of the Woodrow Wilson School at Princeton University, and for her senior thesis, she wrote about the Truth and Reconciliation process in Liberia. She traveled to Monrovia and interviewed quite a few people over a 1 week or 2 week span, Christmas of her senior year. And her parents were just a little bit worried about that because we were told that credit cards won't work and she was going to have to bring a bunch of cash. And everything worked out just fine. She is a big fan of Liberia. Let me introduce in the order in which they will give remarks. First, Ambassador Wendy Sherman. She was sworn in as Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs on September 21st, 2011. Prior to this position, Undersecretary Sherman served as Vice Chair of the Albright Stonebridge Group, a global strategy firm, and a member of the Investment Committee of Albright Capital Management, an affiliated investment advisory firm focused on emerging markets. Ambassador Sherman served as Chair of the Board of Directors of Oxfam America. She has also served on the U.S. Department of Defense's Defense Policy Board, a group tasked with providing the Secretary of Defense with independent, informed advice and opinion concerning matters of defense policy. Ambassador Sherman attended Smith College and received a B.A. cum laude from Boston University, a master's degree in social work, Phi Kappa Phi, from the University of Maryland. His Excellency, the Honorable Augustine Gaffon, took office as Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Liberia on the 10th of February 2012 in the second administration of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Before then, he served 3.5 years as Minister of Finance. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, Augustine Gaffon is also Dean of the Liberian Cabinet. Minister Gaffon has numerous degrees, including an MBA in Finance and Accounting from the University of Rochester and a certificate in Public Financial Management from Harvard University's Kennedy School. Let us start by welcoming Wendy Sherman.
Good morning, distinguished guests, Congressman Marshall. Thank you for your welcoming remarks. I am really delighted to be here today with you to welcome Foreign Minister Ngoffin and the government of Liberia for this inaugural session of the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue. It was almost 4 months ago, on January 15th, that President Sirleaf and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton launched the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue. The dialogue reaffirms the United States' strong commitment to continue to support the government and the people of Liberia as they rebuild their country after 14 devastating years of civil war. The establishment of this dialogue and of the sustained high-level contact that the U.S. and Liberia have maintained in recent years demonstrates that our great friendship and bilateral relationship has only become stronger over the years. Though the challenges facing Liberia are many, we commend President Sirleaf, her government, and the people of Liberia who have diligently worked to lay the foundations for sustainable, broad-based development. The United States stands ready to partner with Liberia to advance this goal. Building on the significant progress Liberia has made over the last decade, in 2010, Liberia was able to cancel $4.9 billion of debt by reaching completion point of the heavily indebted Poor Countries Initiative. Really a remarkable accomplishment. To have reached this achievement, Liberia successfully implemented its poverty reduction strategy and maintained a stable macroeconomic environment despite the global economic crisis. In 2011, the government of Liberia conducted free, fair, and transparent presidential and legislative elections, the country's second since the end of the Civil War in 2003. In recognition of this progress, Liberia was selected as eligible to develop a Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact in 2012, also no easy feat. Specifically, Liberia has made progress on the MCC eligibility criteria, particularly on those indicators that measure governance and respect for human rights. I met before this session with the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Commerce, the Minister of Mines and Energy, Interior, and of course the Foreign Minister, and it's quite apparent to me that governance and human rights and sustainability are high priorities for Liberia. Liberia has received passing marks for the corruption indicator for the last 5 years. These accomplishments are a direct result of President Sirleaf's leadership and the government of Liberia's efforts to strengthen Liberia's democracy and enhance economic opportunities for all Liberians. And this mutual commitment brings us to today. We will convene 2 of the 3 working groups for the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue, one on agriculture and food security, and another on energy and power infrastructure. These 2 working groups focus on key sectors that are important to Liberia's development and economic growth. The U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue provides a dedicated government-to-government forum to bring together high-level officials from both countries to focus on resolving critical issues that threaten Liberia's long-term success. These discussions will support the government of Liberia's long-term political and economic development strategy called Vision 2020, which aims to drastically reduce Liberia's poverty levels and transform it to a middle-income country by 2030. I am confident that our meetings today will reinforce our bilateral cooperation in ways that quickly translate into practical benefits for citizens of both our countries. Liberia has made significant progress over the last decade to ensure peace and security and spur economic growth. But we must continue to work together to build upon these gains and ensure that benefits reach all Liberians. Our support to Liberia will continue to span across all sectors, from security sector reform to education to democracy and good governance to economic development. Thank you, Mr. Foreign Minister, and other members of the Liberian delegation for traveling to Washington today to discuss these important issues. We are very grateful for all that you do every day for your people, and I, along with Acting Assistant Secretary Yamamoto and Ambassador Malik, who truly loves being part of your country, we hope to help in every way. I unfortunately will not be able to be here all day long, but I will return at the end of this day to hear about all that has been accomplished, to look forward to the next round of the dialogue in Liberia, and to congratulate everyone who participates today in a job I know that will be very well done. I'll now turn it over to you, Mr. Minister. Thank you.
Ms. Wendy Sherman, Honorary Secretary of State for Political Affairs, and other members of the U.S. delegation, including Her Excellency Deborah Malak, U.S. Ambassador to Liberia, Mr. Jim Marshall, President and CEO of the United States Institute of Peace, my colleagues and fellow members of the Liberian delegation, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue turns a new page in relations between our 2 nations and peoples, and by so doing, imbues us with new hopes for the future. We are happy that substantive deliberations will begin today, only some 3 months after former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf signed here in Washington, D.C., the Statement of Intent establishing the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue. At the signing ceremony in January, the Liberian leaders said, and I quote, "The launching today of the U.S.-Liberia Partnership is an historic achievement, one that will cement the strategic cooperation between our 2 countries for generations to come, regardless of the occupants of the White House or the executive mansion. the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue will allow our two countries to look at our relationship strategically with a view towards the long term and focus on those areas that encourage broad-based economic growth, including agriculture and food security, energy and power infrastructure, and human development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Liberia is at a crossroads, having experienced the excruciating and harrowing experience of nearly 14 years of brutal conflict that decimated our population, wrecked our economy, and destabilized our sub-region. Thanks to the resilience of the Liberian people and support from the international community, especially from the United States, that supported us through thick and thin, we ended our brutal war some 10 years ago and have since then had two consecutive presidential and general elections, have improved basic social services and infrastructure across the country, have instituted reforms in public financial management and governance, have improved freedom of speech and of the press, and have worked with our neighbors to maintain peace and stability within our border and in our sub-region. And we have crafted a long-term development vision to catapult our country to middle-income status by the year 2030. While recognizing the progress we've achieved over the last 7 years, there is no gainsaying that the challenges we must confront in the present and in the future are colossal and daunting. Indeed, the distance we have traveled thus far in addressing the teething challenges we inherited as a government pales in magnitude when compared to the distance we still have to travel. For as we begin in earnest, substantive discussions in working group sessions on two areas that are critical to the growth and development of Liberia, agriculture and food security, and energy and power infrastructure, we face the uncomfortable reality that 35% of our people are still considered food insecure, and that despite our favorable vegetation and climate endowments, we have not been able to modernize our agriculture sector to the extent where we can fully produce what we eat and transition a critical mass of our people from the informal to the formal sector. Today, again, thanks to support from partners, including the United States, we have expanded power supply in Monrovia, but our installed base is a paltry 23 megawatts as compared to an estimated as compared to a demand of 100 megawatts, excluding demand from the mining and agriculture concessions. Our major hydroelectric facility that provided about 64 megawatts of power in pre-war days was one of the sad casualties of 14 years of conflict, and we are today grappling with the Herculean challenge of restoring that facility and increasing its capacity. As we meet today, the cost of power in Liberia is extremely prohibitive and serves as a major impediment to doing business in Liberia. Our nascent hydrocarbon sector unleashes enormous opportunities mixed with enormous risks for the future, and we are working with all our partners to put in the right proactive policies and legislations for the effective governance of the sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we do not expect that today's dialogue will produce the panacea to the many and various challenges that we confront in Liberia, but we are hopeful that it will contribute in no small measure in consolidating our march forward on the long and tortuous path to solution. The United States has been a strong and reliable partner of Liberia since the founding of Liberia nearly 2 centuries ago. It has assisted immensely in Liberia's transition from war to peace and economic recovery. We note with appreciation an endless list of positive U.S. assistance to Liberia, including, but not limited to, U.S. support to the rebuilding of the Liberian Army and Coast Guard, the cancellation of Liberia's huge debt overhang, the consolidation of the culture of democracy, the restoration of social services, the building of infrastructure, the rebuilding of public sector capacity, the improvement of public financial management, and a host of significant interventions through the Millennium Challenge Corporation's Threshold Program and the soon-to-be rolled-out Compact Program. We are also heartened by the investment of two large and credible U.S. companies in our hydrocarbon sector, Chevron and ExxonMobil, and look forward to attracting additional U.S. investment in other sectors that are critical to our nation's growth and development. We entertain the hope that these partnership dialogues will not only bring our two governments closer, but will also lead to stronger bonds of partnerships between our private sectors, which could lead to mutually beneficial trade and investment. In conclusion, on behalf of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and the government and people of Liberia, I extend thanks to U.S. President Barack Obama, Secretary of State John Kerry, Under Secretary Wendy Sherman, and all members of the U.S. government who have worked assiduously in making us reach to this day. As we begin our deliberations, I wish for us all a productive and resulting inaugural session of the U.S.-Liberia Partnership Dialogue. Thank you.